Sophia's mother-in-law, Evelyn, unlocked our front door with a key I never gave her and tried to take my son. So I called CPS and handed her a court order. She said, "I just want to see my grandson." Then she showed up with a camera crew. The video went viral. The threats came next. And then Child Protective Services knocked on my door. This isn't just a story, it's a nightmare. The sudden arrival of my mother-in-law into our home occurred each and every morning. "I'm here to inspect how you're taking care of my child," she exclaimed with a smile. Despite the fact that I had replaced the locks, she showed up with an extra key. In a fit of rage, I made one last move, and when she attempted to enter the building the following time, she was confronted with a court order that caused her to scream. It never occurred to me that getting married to Michael would also give me the opportunity to marry his mother, Evelyn. She seemed to believe that she had an open invitation to our lives and our home from the minute we said, "I do," which was the moment we had our wedding. It was a subtle beginning with a knock here and a visit there, but before long, it became a daily routine. Every single morning, without fail, Evelyn would sneak into our home without us having to ask her to come in. I would be in the midst of feeding our child, with my hair disheveled and still wearing my pajamas, when I would look up and see her standing at the doorway with that recognizable grin on her face. "I'm here to inspect how you're taking care of my child," she would proclaim, her eyes searching the room for any indication of disorder or neglect. "I'm here to inspect how you're taking care of my child." With all my heart, I made an effort to be patient. After all, she was a member of the family. On the other hand, her persistent intrusion started to wear on me. It wasn't just that I didn't have any privacy. It was also the underlying message that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't take care of my own family without her supervision. I made the decision to handle the matter one morning, immediately following a night in which I was unable to sleep with the infant. "Evelyn," I started, attempting to maintain a steady tone in my voice. "I have a lot of respect for your concern, but I require some space. Could you kindly give me a call before you pay me a visit?" To indicate that she was taken aback, she raised an eyebrow. "Dear, I'm only trying to be of assistance. There is no need to send invitations to family." The realization that this talk was not going to lead somewhere beneficial caused me to let out a sigh. Michael's discussion of the subject was just as frustrating as the situation itself. He did not appear to be willing to take a stance, as he appeared to be caught between his mother and myself. In his words, "She's just trying to be involved," he would remark. "Maybe she's lonely." Whether I was lonely or not, I required boundaries. In order to take control of the situation, I decided to change the locks on the door. My desire to exert some control over my own home was so strong that I felt like taking severe action. On the following morning, while I was taking pleasure in a little period of tranquility with my cup of coffee, I became aware of the distinct sound of a key turning in the lock. My heart sank when Evelyn entered, clutching a brand new key in her hand. "You changed the locks," she remarked, feeling more amused than upset at the time. "Yes, Evelyn, it is," I responded with a tone that was tinged with frustration, saying that we required some privacy. She huffed as she made her way to the kitchen, as if nothing had happened from the previous moment. "Well, that's not very welcoming," she said. I had reached the point of no return. The fact that the locks had been changed had not discouraged her. All she had done was obtain a new key. My need was for a solution that was more conclusive. While conducting research into my alternatives, I came to the realization that in our state, repeated unwelcome incursions may be considered trespassing, even if they were made by members of the same family. I couldn't continue to live in such a state. Despite the fact that it seemed severe, after consulting with a lawyer, I was informed that I had the ability to submit a petition for a protective order. After documenting Evelyn's repeated intrusions and our attempts to set limits, I felt right in making this decision, even though it was not an easy one to make. Exactly as was anticipated, Evelyn showed up the following morning. However, I was prepared this time. As I handed her the court order, I observed the transformation of her expression from one of smugness to one of horror. "You can't be serious," she hushed under her breath as her hands began to shake. "I am sorry, Evelyn, but this has reached an unacceptable level," I asserted in a forceful tone. "We require our space." Before she stormed out of the room, she let out a scream that was a mixture of anger and disbelief. Michael was in utter disbelief. After a period of time, counseling, and a great number of conversations, he gradually came to an understanding of the impact that his mother's behavior had had on both my marriage and my relationship with him. From that point on, Evelyn maintained her distance. It became a calm morning for us, and our home became genuinely ours. We fought a fierce war, but in the end, we were successful in regaining security for our shelter. The court injunction brought about a period of relative peace that lasted for a few weeks. During the time that I was nursing our child, there were no unexpected visits, no snarky comments about my cuisine, and no cold glares. There was only quiet, although Michael made an effort to maintain a normal situation. The stress was high because of this. He was unable to move. Although I was aware that he did not hold me responsible, I was also aware that he was missing her. It is difficult to put into words the level of strain that accumulates when you are the one who is responsible for separating a family. After that, Michael arrived home from work one day, not appearing sleepy but rather anxious. He was not exhausted. He took a seat for me at the table in the kitchen. "She has hired a lawyer," he whispered, and left the room. I blinked my eyes. "What?" "It appears that she is attempting to contest the court order, argues that it is not fair. You are accused of manipulating the judge. She asserts that you have lied about everything," he said. I was attracted to him, although I was not surprised that Evelyn would go to such a low level. Hearing it out loud had a different effect on me. "I documented everything," I said, attempting to maintain my composure. "Every visit, every time she walked in without knocking, every time I asked her to stop." He indicated with a nod. "It is true. I have faith in you." To add insult to injury, she was not only fighting it but also making it public. It turned out that Evelyn had been telling everyone, including her friends, her relatives, and members at her church, that I was unstable, that I was controlling, and that I was keeping her away from her granddaughter out of spite. In addition to that, she started posting on Facebook with enough ambiguity to prevent a legal challenge, but with sufficient clarity for everyone who knew us. Examples include statements such as, "It is extremely distressing when someone poisons your child against you, and there are some women who marry only to divide, not to build." I did not give a response. No, I did not post my defense. I was aware that my response would only serve to reinforce her story, but then she went one step further than that. After some time had passed, I was at home by myself with the infant when I became aware of the doorbell, only the sound of the bell, luckily, and not the sound of a key. Taking a peek through the peephole, I felt a twisting sensation in my gut. It was Evelyn, who was accompanied by a camera team and was holding a bouquet of flowers. It wasn't me who opened the door. She remained outside for 15 minutes, throughout which time she spoke at a volume that was audible to the cameras. "I just want to see my grandson," she said in the most endearing language she could muster. "Is it a crime to love your family?" After that, she made her way to her vehicle and drove away. After 2 days, a video found its way onto the internet. This was presented on a YouTube channel that specialized in family rights. The subject of the article, "Grandmother blocked from seeing grandchild, daughter-in-law goes too far." A portion of the video went viral. Unknown individuals weighed in on the comments, which erupted. Some people referred to me as evil. It was said that Evelyn was insane. On the other hand, everything was open to the public. Because of everything, my family was thrust into the spotlight, something we had not sought. Michael attempted to have the video removed from the internet. But once something is uploaded to the internet, it quickly spreads. I started receiving direct messages. Threats were made by some were simply disagreeable. After that, Child Protective Services arrived. Someone had made a report, and I am curious as to who it was, stating that our infant was being neglected. The caseworker was courteous, but still assertive. The house was inspected. A lot of questions were asked of me. Notes were taken, and she looked at our kid, who was clean, fed, and smiling. She did not find anything wrong with everything. Despite this, it rocked me to my very core. It dawned on me that this was not only the behavior of an overbearing mother-in-law. Evelyn was eager to fight, and she had no qualms about getting her hands dirty. That evening, after the infant had gone to sleep, I sat down on the couch with Michael and whispered, "If she wants war, I'll give her one." The first thing that Michael did was remain silent. It was just him looking at me. When he finally spoke, he remarked, You are not alone. After that, I began making preparations for my impending relocation. Initially, I decided to keep a journal. We recorded every call, every message, and every suspicious car that was parked close to our home. I wasn't paranoid, rather. I was well prepared. It took me some time before I shared everything with Michael. With work, the visit from Child Protective Services, and his own feelings of guilt. He was already under a lot of stress. The affection he had for his wife and his devotion to his mother were at odds with each other. I didn't want to put a further burden on his shoulders. However, it was imperative that I be prepared, since I had a feeling that Evelyn was not yet finished. I was correct. After a week had passed, I went to pick up the child from daycare, and the instructor, Miss Carey, appeared to be in a state of discomfort. "Hey, Sophia," she murmured with a cautious tone. "Can we talk for a second?" My stomach became more constricted as I followed her into the office. She took out a copy of the daycare pickup list and handed it to me. In addition, Evelyn's name was included. Somebody had called and updated the list of people to contact in case of an emergency, and it appears that this had taken place over the phone. "Did you approve this?" Carrie inquired about it. "No," I replied, my tone of voice icy. "I didn't." She gave a slight nod. "We found it to be quite peculiar. The reason we did not give him to her is because of this." She was present, however. It was Evelyn who had arrived at the childcare. My child was the one she attempted to pick up. After expressing my gratitude to Carrie, I took my son and drove directly to the police station. Even though I was shaking the whole time, I was able to complete it. A report was submitted. Our restraining order was revised, and the daycare was included. They assured me that they would get in touch with Evelyn and give her another warning. She ought to have been fearful about that. It did not happen. Michael was out with his buddies late into the night. 2 nights later, when the electricity unexpectedly went out, I was at home, taking care of the infant. For a while, the entire home was dark. I became numb, considering that it was storm season. The answer was no. I peered out the window. The lights on the porches of my neighbors were still on. On our own, I made a phone call to Michael. There was no response. The electric company was the one I called. There had been no reported outages. After that, I became aware of it. There was a gentle knock at the back door. Neither did I move, nor did I take a breath. I dialed the emergency number. Although the police did not discover anyone when they came, they did discover some wires that had been cut near our breaker box, that had been messed with by someone. That evening was the one in which I set up the cameras, only the genuine ones, not the imitations. Complete protection. This includes the backyard, the front entrance, and the side windows. Following 3 days, we were able to capture her on tape. At 2:42 a.m., we found Evelyn on our property, approaching the window of our infant's room, just standing there, looking over. I went to my attorney and showed him the footage. We requested a comprehensive restraining order from the court. Although we already had one, this was taking things to an all-new level. It wasn't interference at all. This was a case of obsession. Michael was finally able to see it, every single thing. Beyond that point, there was no way to defend her. He severed all communication. He prevented her from calling him. He instructed her to never get in touch with him again. Despite the fact that we were disturbed, we felt that perhaps, just possibly, it would be the end. It was not the case. In the following few days, Michael's car was broken into while he was at work. Simply, the car seat was ripped and chopped to pieces, and a message was affixed to the dashboard that said, "You are allowing her to ruin everything." There was no theft that occurred since there was no signature. We did not require one. The following week, we relocated. The new address was kept a secret from everyone, including extended family members. We upgraded our phones and updated our phone numbers. It felt like we were being protected as witnesses, but we had no other option. There were a few days of relative calm. There were no knocks, no messages, and no calls from Child Protective Services. None of it. Prior to the arrival of the letter, there was no return address provided. There were copies of court records contained within. Evelyn had submitted a file for the rights of grandparents. A visitation lawsuit was filed against us. At that moment, I came to the realization that this was not solely about control. It was a genuine belief on this woman's part that she had a legal right to our child. This was not in the end. The opposite is true. When I read the newspaper, I couldn't help but cry. I won't lie, it wasn't just the surprise of being sued that did it. It was the cumulative effect of everything that had come before it, the breach of limits, the dangers that existed, the campaign of maligning, the visit from CPS, the incident at the childcare, the night that she stood outside the window of our infant's room. Now she was requesting that a judge compel us to allow her to re-enter into our lives, as well as into the life of our child. It seemed as if I was unable to take a breath. Michael's anger was on fire. I had never before witnessed him in such a manner. Within the kitchen, he punched the wall. He hurled his phone across the room in a wide arc. Above all else, however, he appeared to be betrayed. He was betrayed by the woman who had brought him up. He was very self-critical. It was also my fault that I had waited for such a long time to speak up for us, for the possibility that she would become more calm, because I chose to be courteous when I ought to have made a clear decision right from the beginning, he said. Once more, we hired a lawyer. In this particular instance, it was not only about safeguarding ourselves, this was about ensuring the safety of our child. Evelyn might be seen sitting in court, dressed as if she were a saint, cardigan in a light pink color, pearl earrings. She went so far as to bring photographs of herself holding our child and smiling, as if those brief moments were evidence that she was nothing more than a loving grandmother. In her testimony, she described me to the judge as unstable, possessive, and jealous. She portrayed herself as a victim in her head, stating that she was concerned about the health of her son. It was necessary for her to step in. I was sitting there, trembling with anger under the table. Michael clasped my hand in his. It was then our turn to speak. We provided everything, including the logs, the texts, the testimony from the daycare, the police reports, the investigation by Child Protective Services, and finally, the footage, the one that occurred at 2:42 in the morning, in the darkness. She was standing outside the window of our baby's room. As soon as that film started playing, there was complete silence in the room. Evelyn attempted to speak, to cry, and to convey all of these things, but it was already too late. It was impossible for her to argue her way out of this situation. Keeping a stony expression, the judge leaned forward. It is not the case that a grandparent who is devoted to their grandchild is denied access. Harassment, manipulation, and a hazardous disrespect for limits are all present in this situation, he said. Despite her plea for grandparents' rights, he did not grant them. Following that, he imposed a restraining order that was permanent. Her ability to communicate with us or our child in any form for any reason was prohibited for an extended period of time. However, that was not the end of it. As it turns out, it is a criminal offense to file a fraudulent report with Child Protective Services. Additionally, it is illegal to tamper with a breaker box, as is showing up at a daycare center in an attempt to pick up a child for whom you do not have legal custody. A fortnight later, she was taken into custody. I was the first one to receive the call from the detective. Then, after that, the news station began making phone calls. Recall that her video had gone viral at the time. The question of what actually took place piqued the interest of the public, and all of a sudden, those who had previously trusted her recognized the reality. She quickly became a source of humor in her neighborhood. There was a restraining order against the grandmother. Her congregation turned its back on her. After that, her friends stopped responding. During the day that she was taken in, Michael was quite quiet. He didn't take any joy in it. There was no gloating on his part. He did nothing but stare out the window for a considerable amount of time. She was my mother, his words were. But you were right, he added. We remained silent as we sat there. If only I could say that I had a positive feeling about the outcome. On the other hand, I simply felt exhausted, enraged. It was hollow. I wish I had put more faith in my gut impulses earlier. I really regret that I let courtesy lead us through agony, but we were able to escape. Attempting to exert control over us caused her to lose everything. To what end? Then, to demonstrate a point, to emerge victorious in a battle. It was only a permanent seat on the outside that she was awarded. Again, we relocated, but this time, it was across the nation, the blank slate, the new city. Exactly 3 of us. No one enters our house without first being requested to do so, not ever again. Ever. Thanks for watching and being part of the drama. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a wild new story.